Shalom, brothers and sisters. Let's take a look at these winter feasts here. We have the Feast of Dedication, and we also have the Feast of Purim and and this other 13-day feast of Judah, or Judas. We're going to take a look at all three. And today is the last day of the Feast of Dedication. Some of you are celebrating it with me. If you don't know the times and dates, I tell everybody to research this information on your own. But for now, I've been following the Hebrew One's feast day calendar at Hebrew1.com. So go check that one out. Dig into that information. I mean, if it's wrong, it would show itself in the future. Because I'm still researching the days and the feast days and everything. A little under the weather right now, brothers and sisters, but wanted to get this video done today. So let's read here in 1 Maccabees chapter 4 about the feast day, the Feast of Dedication. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary. Now, at that time, they sought to destroy all of Israel. Again, just like before with Queen Esther, where they sought to destroy all of Israel. The Most High delivered Zion. And we got to keep these things in mind, that the Most High will deliver us out of the mighty hand. And it seems as if they are all powerful with all their weapons of war and destruction, but they're not. Their weapons will fail against us if you have faith. Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Zion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and altar profane, and the gates burnt up, and shrubs growing in the courts, as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, and the priest's chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation and cast ashes upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones unto, okay, I'm just checking to see if the mic was up. Let's see, where was I? Who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it, wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in a convenient place, until there should come a prophet to show what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hallowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick and the altar of burnt offerings and of incense, and the table. And upon the altar they burnt incense, and the lamps that were upon the candlestick they lighted that they might give light in the temple. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table and spread out the veils and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month Casleu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifices according to the law upon a new altar of burnt offerings which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and cisterns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the Most High of heaven, who had given them good sense. And so they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and offered burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrificed the sacrifice of deliverance and praise. They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shield, and with gates, and the chambers they renewed and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, excuse me, everyone. Moreover, Judas and his brethren, with the whole congregation, Israel, ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 25th day of the month Casleu, with mirth and gladness. At that time also they builded up the Mount Sion with high walls and strong towers around about, lest the Gentiles should come and tread it down as they had done before. And they set there a garrison to keep it. They fortified Bethsua to preserve it, that the people might have a defense against Idumea. So as you can see, we are to celebrate this 8th day in mirth and gladness. Now, some Hebrews had said that we were to give gifts here to one another, and I'm going to show you that that's in the other feast day. But if you wanted to give gifts on this day of gladness and mirth, I don't see no commandment against it. I don't see nothing wrong against it. But this is the feast of dedication. So let's go to John chapter 10, verse 22. And we're going to see that Hamashiach, where is that? Participated in the Feast of Dedication as well. And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter, and Yahusha walked in the temple at Solomon's porch. Oh man, sorry about this. Just wanted to get it done today. Okay, the Feast of Dedication was celebrated by Hamashiach, as we can see. Now let's go to the other winter feast, which is in, let's go ahead and look at 2nd Maccabees 15, and we're going to read 28 through 39. Now when the battle was done, returning again with joy, they knew that Nicanor lay dead in his harness. So this was the Greeks, the time when the Greeks had power or control over Zion, and there was a rebellion with started with the Maccabees, who defeated them and brought back the the dedication of what just brought us back to the Most High from being persecuted by the Greeks. Alright, let's read. Then they made a great shout and a noise, praising the Almighty in their own language. And Judas, who was ever the chief defender of the citizens, both in body and mind, and who continued his love toward his countrymen all his life, commanded to strike off Nicanor's head and his hand with his shoulder and bring them to Jerusalem. Now, y'all better get prepared to see body parts all over the place. And it might be you the one taking someone's heads off and their hand and their shoulder together and posting it up somewhere. Just as, what's her name, saved Jerusalem when she went in a camp, army of the camps, and chopped the general's head off and took it back with her. And they put it on a stake in front of Jerusalem, brothers and sisters. So man or woman, Most High is in control. He may have you do something like this. Be prepared. So when he was there and had called them of his nation together and set the priests before the altar, he sent for them that were of the tower, and showed them vile Nicanor's hand, and the hand that blasphemer, which with proud brags he had stretched out against the holy temple of the Almighty. And when he had cut off the tongue of that ungodly Nicanor, he commanded that they should give it by pieces unto the fowls and hang up the reward of his madness before the temple. So every man praised. So every man praised towards the heaven, the glorious Elohim, saying, Blessed be he that hath kept his own place undefiled. He hanged also Nicanor's head upon a tower, in evident and manifest sign unto all of the help of Yahuah. And they ordained all with a common decree, in no case to let that day pass without solemnity, but to celebrate the 13th day of the 12th month, which in the Syrian tongue is Adar, the day before Mordecai Day, which we're going to read next, Mordecai Day. That's with the one with Queen Esther. So you got a 3-day celebration here. This one starts on the 13th, and when we get to Mordecai Day, we're going to find out that that celebration starts on the 14th and 15th, and that's why it's saying the day before Mordecai Day. Excuse me. Thus went it with Nicanor, and from that time forth the Hebrews had the city in their power, and here will I make it in. And if I have done well, and as is fitting the story, it is that which I desired. But if slenderly and meanly, it is that which I could attain unto. For as it is hurtful to drink wine or water alone, and as wine mingleth with water is pleasant and delighteth the taste, even so speech finely framed delighteth the ears of them that read the story, and here shall be an end. So we have the 13th day, which is what I call Judas Day, and let's go take a look at Mordecai Day. Now remember, the 12th month is in between February and March. That's the 12th month. And it's on the 13th day that we celebrate this Judas Day. Let's go to Esther. chapter 9, 17. Okay, on the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, it made it a day of feasting and gladness. Now remember, in Maccabees, the 13th day was Judas' day. But they're going to make the 14th and 15th Mordecai day. So it started on the 13th and it's going to go into the next feast day. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same, they rested and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the village that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar and a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. There's the gift giving. You send portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things, Mordecai, and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both near and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning unto a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions, gifts one to another, and gifts to the poor as well. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them. Because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of all Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is, the lot, that's Purim, to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. And the Most High saved us again from destruction. Brothers and sisters, wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Now remember, Pur means the lot. They was going to kill the lot of us. The Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them. And I like to mention the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them. Who was this talking about? Servants and handmaids, and anyone who had converted by faith back in the day, was a proselyte who converted themselves. Now, don't get this confused with all the other Gentiles who were unrepentant all around the kingdom, surrounding the kingdom. This is talking about the ones that was in our land and circumcised with us, and the other ones, whoever else we knew that converted and walked in the ways of the Most High. There's so many Hebrews just don't want this part for anybody else but us. But our job was to be what? A light to the Gentiles. They will be punished. Trust me. The unrepentant will be punished. But by faith, Let me read on. So as it should not fail that they would keep these 2 days, according to their writing, according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered, like remember the Sabbath day, and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, every city, and that these days' appearance should not fail from among the Jews. And now he really wasn't talking about the northern kingdom here. I mean, if they joined themselves to us at that time, he was talking about them too. But the northern kingdom was out of here by then and went to live in far off lands. And this was just dealing with us and the remnant of the northern kingdom that was still in Samaria and round about us, and the remnant of the Jews that was still scattered in other nations that did come up and celebrate these things wherever they was at in the other nations. Nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. So this memorial is not supposed to perish from the seed. It's supposed to be done. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letter unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of peace and truth. So this is basically the Feast of Purim, established by Mordecai and Queen Esther through the hand of the Most High. Wait a minute, I said it backwards. It was established by the hand of the Most High through Mordecai and Queen Esther. Okay. I know sometimes I mess up. Y'all just work with me if I mess up saying something in my video and y'all catch it and you know what I meant. But some people are going to be like, start turbo typing, going off and stuff anyway. When I just make some mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. And I don't know it all, brothers and sisters. Y'all know this on this channel. But I'm ever learning. And I try to share what I have. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. This is like a bonus. And then this is just something to think about. Don't y'all put this in your mind. This is just my thoughts on this matter, something I'm researching. Now right here says, but pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days be short, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be short. Now notice on these feast days, on Mordecai Day and Judas Day, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, those two separate events, two separate times, the Most High to save us from complete total destruction and annihilation. And if y'all know, they're plotting to try to kill us all again. Because if they kill every last single one of us, then Esau gets, he steps up next to the plate to get the blessings and the covenants. And that's what they're planning. A great extermination of all the Hebrews in the world. Now we know the Most High not going to allow that, but I wanted to tie this in with that I'm not predicting nothing. I'm not setting dates. Y'all know I don't do that here. I don't believe in date setting. I've been through the ringer between 2012 and 2013 with the pre-tribulation group. Once you come out of the group, you're sane again. And I'm sane again, alright? But right here, they celebrated they celebrated being saved by the Most High Hand from total destruction on these dates. And we ought to keep them forever and remember them. Now, I don't know if that's going to be a future date when after the Most High mighty arm stretched out hand save us and deliver us from out the heathen's hands, that we're going to celebrate on in the winter time, during the time of those winter feast days I was talking about. Or the 13th through the 4th through the 15th. Those 2 times we were saved from annihilation. And the Feast of Dedication of the Temple was us conquering our enemies round about, well, the Greeks mainly. And rebuilding the temple. Even though we didn't have a king, but we built the temple and started up our thing again in the temple. And that was a mighty feast, a day of gladness and mirth. Not necessarily a total destruction of all the Jews at that moment. And I could be wrong about that. If I missed something about that one, the Feast of Dedication, y'all let me know if I'm wrong about that. It's okay for me to be wrong every now and then, brothers and sisters. I ain't perfect. I'm like you, seeking truth. Still trying to find it in many areas. But just keep that in mind. That just came to mind when I was reading about those 2 feast days. This popped in my head. And so I remembered, the Holy Spirit brought that into remembrance. And I said, you know what, I'm going to bring this up in a video. See if y'all see what I'm seeing. Could be nothing. Could be something. I don't know. But that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. With that, brother, sister, I'm going to say shalom and pray for me in this little moment of sickness